All right, welcome to your final lesson in Unit 3. We're talking about rests in compound time. We just did our lesson on compound time signatures like 6/8, 9/8, and 12/8, where you're feeling triplets. Everything is grouped into 3 eighth note groupings. So you're feeling 1 and a 2 and a triple, right? Now in compound time, as you can see, it says quarter note rests can be used to cover only the first and second of a group of 3 eighth notes. So if you had in 6/8 time a whole bunch of rests, you would make it look like this. Okay, quarter rest, eighth rest, quarter rest, eighth rest, and it might look a little funny because you're used to seeing just quarter rests all the way through a bar of music. But that, of course, is just in 4/4 time. Here we have to show 3 eighth note groupings at a time. Let me just zoom in here for a little bit. It says the upper section is correct. So notice what's happening here. We have to show 3 eighth notes at a time. There's 3 eighth notes right there, and there's 3 eighth notes right there. If we were to write, let me just grab a pen here. If we were to write 1, 2, 3 quarter rests, yes, technically we have the same amount of time as this, but we're not properly showing the subdivision of the beat. We need to make sure that we're seeing this midway point, the beginning of the second pulse, which is that 4th eighth note of the bar. So, for that reason, we need to make sure that we don't do it this way, okay? This is not correct. You want to show it in 2 groupings of 3. Okay, the other way you could show it, and I'm not sure why they didn't print it right on the page, but if you wanted to, let me just draw another single line here, 6/8 time. If you wanted to draw a whole bar of rest in 6/8 time, you could also do it this way. You could draw 2 dotted quarter rests. That is another perfectly acceptable way to draw a full bar of rest in 6/8 time, because you're showing 1 beat here and 1 beat there. Just like you can draw dotted quarter notes, you can draw dotted quarter rests. Now, have a look at the next example and look at this one as incorrect. Now, you might first wonder why, because I'm seeing 3 eighth notes there and I'm seeing 3 eighth notes there. When we write rest, the convention is usually to have the larger rest value first, which is why you want to show it this way. Quarter rest, eighth rest, quarter rest, eighth rest. This is just poor grammar, I guess, musical grammar. All right, you want to show the longer beat first. Another reason, this is a little bit less important, but when you're counting in 6/8 time, generally, well, the most important beat, the most important note of the triplet is the first one, but this next most important triplet is the third one, and that's why we want to see it as well. When we count in 6/8 time, we count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, da, 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 da. Often, when you have different kinds of rhythms, you'll have more rhythms, more beginnings of notes on the first and third note of any triplet. So that's why we want to show it like this, or in dotted quarter rests, but never like this, where we have an eighth note on its own followed by a quarter rest. All right. So if a bar needs to be completed with rests, follow that convention. You always want to see the first and third beat of rest, whether it's a note or a rest. So unless you're doing an entire quarter rest, you want to see that third beat. All right, and that's why they're showing you here that if a bar like this needs to be completed with rests, it needs to be done with 2 eighth note rests like this, as opposed to 1 big quarter rest. All right, it's just musical grammar. Technically, if you were to put a quarter rest in here, you know, I guess it wouldn't be quote-unquote wrong, but it would just be poor grammar. It would be like starting a sentence without a capital. It would be like putting an I without a dot or ending a sentence without a period. It's just musical grammar. All right, so use those conventions and finish off this worksheet. First, you're going to do a little bit of investigative work for these 4 examples. You have 2 examples here in 6/8 time, or what's called compound duple, and you have 2 examples in 12/8 time, which is compound quadruple. Investigate these measures with rests and mark them as correct or not with a checkbox. All right, so check the ones that are correct, put an X in the ones that are incorrect, and follow the rule above about the placement of rests in compound time. At the bottom, you're just going to throw in some rests. Here you have obviously some empty bars, some half-empty bars. You're missing some beats, and you need to fill in the rest of these bars with the proper number of rests and organized in the right manner. So finish off this worksheet, fire it off, and that'll be the end of Unit 3.